In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to construct the Greek link necklace. You may have already seen my video describing how to construct the Greek link earring. The reason why I call it the Greek link is the link itself is based on the classical Greek Ionic column. That would be the capital of the column. What you see here are two different approaches. This is a completed necklace with the links joined by an intervening link, a bridging link that allows you to incorporate a bead, and I've used square wooden beads in the construction of this necklace. And the clasp is a fishhook clasp that locks into the figure 8 link that you've seen in my other videos. That's how it attaches. This is a very effective way of ending a necklace. Looking closely at the Greek link, you can see essentially it's two spiral formations that are held together with a bridging link. I'd like to point out one last thing before we actually start the construction of this necklace. The bridging link that you see here, I used an open loop. It's not wrapped, closed, it's open. This variation that I'm currently working on, the bridging link, involves a wire wrap that effectively closes and locks the bridging link with its associated bead in place. This is a much more secure way of building a necklace. This necklace will not come apart. I also changed the design slightly. I alternated the links so they face both up and down. And for the purposes of this video, this is the approach I'm going to demonstrate. But keep in mind, the bridging link doesn't necessarily have to be done this way. You can construct an open bridging link to the one that I used in this necklace. Tools that we will use in the construction of the Greek link necklace are the usual. The standard chain link pliers, our cutting pliers, and I often use two different kinds. Here's the traditional type, and here we have our nippers. Very effective and extremely hard steel. I like them. And of course, the round nose pliers. For wire, for the ongoing necklace that I'm making here, I'm going to continue to use 18 gauge sterling silver wire. That's a heavier wire. It's a very malleable, beautiful wire to work with. And for the bridging link, I'm going to use a slightly lighter gauge. I'm going to use 20 gauge sterling silver wire. It would be very hard for me to form these bridging link wire wraps using an 18 gauge wire. If you want to use the correct terminology for sterling silver, it's 0.035 sterling silver wire round/soft. To make each individual link, you need exactly 8 inches of wire. Alright, I have 3 pieces of wire. The main idea behind the creation of this link is to spiral half of the link and stop at midpoint, and then continue with the opposite end of the wire and stop at midpoint. Actually, you'll have no choice but to stop at midpoint because you're going to run smack into what you've already done. What am I talking about? Laying it on a ruler, each spiral occupies about 1/2 inch. The link itself is about 1 inch long. Wrap one side to approximately the 4-inch mark. Stop at that point and then switch sides and wrap the other side. And let's just do it so you see what I'm talking about. Hold in my 8-inch length of sterling silver wire. I take my needle nose pliers and I create that little bend at the tip of the wire. Compress it tight because that's how I like it. I'll start to wind it at least 4 complete times around. Okay, 4 complete times around. Let's see. That'll bring me approximately to the midway point. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me stop and let me measure because I want to have at least 4 inches of wire left from here to here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I put my coil on the 4-inch mark, and man, that was close. I'm just slightly over. So, take my pliers, bend it a little bit more, but not much. Now I'm going to reverse the process. Go to the other side. That's it. By stopping at that 4-inch mark, you're automatically at the midway point. Let me make another one to reinforce the lesson. And then we'll hammer them out a bit before we actually make the bridging link. I take my needle nose pliers, grab the tip, and give it a little bend. Now I'll wrap the wire around approximately 4 times, 4 complete rotations. One, two, three. Now what I'll do, when I think I might be there, is drop it down to the ruler. There's the 4-inch mark. Perfect. See what I'm doing? So I have 4 inches of wire from where that lines up to the tip. Now, like you saw me do with the previous link, I'm going to grab this at the end, turn it in upon itself, crimp it tight, flatten it, and wind it to create that beautiful spiral that's characteristic of the Greek link. See, this is why I refer to it as ratcheting sometimes. This is truly, you ever work with a ratchet wrench? This is like working with a ratchet wrench. But I think the terminology, turn the wire in upon itself, may be more descriptive of what you're actually doing. Let's put it against a ruler. It happens to be 1 inch, exactly. And smack in the middle is the 1/2 inch mark. I do like to hammer them out. It gives it that handmade look, and it stiffens the metal even further. As I hammer them, I pay very careful attention to what I'm doing so I don't distort the shape. Beautiful. Put that on the side, and we'll do that to the other one. These links are now ready to be added to our necklace that we're making. But for the next step, I'm going to have to discuss how to construct the bridging link. This is 18 gauge sterling silver wire. The bridging link is made out of 20 gauge. 20 gauge is thinner than 18, slightly easier to work with. This is actually the very first Greek link necklace that I ever made. This was after I came up with a design. And the bridging link here is much simpler. It's an open loop that can easily be opened and closed and used to attach the individual links. And as long as you close it tightly, it's not going to fall apart. Much easier to make than this one over here. And I'm not even sure which one I prefer in terms of looks. There's something nice about the simplicity of this one. At this point, I'd like to demonstrate how to create the bridging link with its bead. Then, as I'm doing that, I'll show you how to connect everything. To make the bridging link, I've cut miscellaneous lengths of silver wire. You don't really need a specific amount, but you need it long enough to enable yourself to accomplish the wraps. So let's jump into it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Link, I'm using 20 gauge silver wire, and I need to use my round nose jewelry pliers. I position my pliers about 1 inch or even a little more from the top. This is a situation where when you're using gold or silver, you will waste a little bit of metal. So try to use the minimum length necessary to achieve the bend, and here's what I mean. I'm going to bend the wire out at a 45-degree angle. I'm making a bridging link. Now I'm going to take that piece of bent wire and wrap it around the plier like you've seen me do in other videos. Okay. The reason why I bent it out at a 45-degree angle is it actually centers the loop. If you can see what I've done here, it's hard. I can't get much more magnification than that. But I don't have the wire tightly up against itself. I have a little space, and this is going to allow me to slip it onto the Greek link. And here's what we do next. I take my necklace that I'm slowly assembling. Okay, so I insert the link that I'm forming, the bridging link, into my Greek link. It's there in place. Now, how do I lock it in? This is where it gets a little tricky. So watch this very carefully. I take my chain link pliers and I get a good grip right at the intersection of the two pieces of wire. I wrap that small leg of wire around the long leg of wire. See that? How I'm twisting that around? What I've done is I have my loop and I have the wire wrap. I find a convenient spot where I can compress it. Right about there. And I take my plier and I squeeze. And I'll squeeze it again. Now, I'll use my cutters to remove the excess length. And I press my cutter against the wire as close as I can, and that excess amount. Put my finger there so it doesn't fly out. It's a tiny little piece. Now, the beauty of sterling silver wire is it's extraordinarily malleable, so I can easily take my chain link pliers and finesse it, squeeze it, continue to compress it, and work it in a nice circular fashion. There we go. Now we have a length of wire attached to the necklace that we're in the process of creating. What will I do at this point? I'm going to get one of the dark beads, these wooden beads I like very much. I'm going to string the bead into the piece. There we go. To create a loop on this side of the bridge and link that will eventually attach to another Greek link. What I do at this point is I position my plier right about there. Notice I have maybe 1/8 of an inch. I'm not right up against the bead. I can't be up against the bead because I need a little bit of space to accomplish that wire wrap. So 1/8 of an inch, maybe even more. And I'll bend my wire out now at a 45, like so. If I don't release my plier, and it makes sense not to, it's in the proper position to continue to bend the wire around the plier. That's what I'm doing. See? Bending the wire around. And there we go. We have the beginning of the other side of this bridging link. But before I can go any further, I need to take my Greek link, insert it onto that, now it is a little difficult because I have this link in the way. I have to hold everything in place and continue to wrap. So I take my fine pliers. Maybe it might pay for me to invest in a smaller pair of jewelry pliers that would allow me to get into here more comfortably. I left this length long enough. I need a little bit of leverage. And the longer the length, the easier it is to have enough wire to grab onto and achieve that wrap. If I was using 18 gauge, I can never pull this off. 18 would be just too heavy. This is 20 gauge wire. I attempt to get as close as physically possible to the body of that bridge and link and cut off any excess wire. I won't throw this wire out, of course. I'll put it in a drawer and save it. It has other uses. Wire sticks out a little bit. It could be better. And if your craftsmanship isn't 100%, the piece is not going to be successful. So I take my chain link pliers and I compress this area down. There it is. Now, I'm not happy with the way it's facing. They're both facing down. I'm designing this so they alternate. I think that's the beauty of this. Of course, at this stage of the game, it's simple. All I have to do is reverse my link. We're about halfway there. Let's see. This one that I showed you before is a nice size. And yes, we're just about halfway there. I turned the camera off for a few minutes to concentrate on making some additional links. And I just wanted to start the camera rolling again to show you how I go about it. I don't make the individual links to completion one at a time. What I'll do is I'll do them steps at a time. So the first step is the spiral on each one to the midway point, and then I stop, and then I reverse the process to complete my link. Please note that you wrap it until there's about 4 inches of wire remaining, and then you wrap it from the other direction. Formed 5 additional links. Now what I'm going to do is hammer them out. Flatten them a little bit. It strengthens them. It gives them a handmade look. It alters the round surface of the wire, making it look more worked. It's a really nice way to improve the look of any link. I'm watching very carefully what I'm doing. I'm not just hammering on this indiscriminately. I'm looking at the surface, I'm observing the way the metal is bending, and I'm being careful to get nice uniform marks. The coil, the spiral, you hold it on its side, it's beautiful, it's even. I think it's important to mention that when you attach the bridging link that we see here, you need to attach it to the necklace side of the link that you're building. In other words, I wouldn't attach it to the link that I'm going to add first. I would attach my bridging link to this link and then add the new link to the necklace. Worked for quite a while on this, and it's basically complete. The way I would like to end it is with a bridging link on each one, and then attached to the bridging link, I'm going to add a hook on one side and a figure 8 on the other. I just added a bridging link to one end of the necklace. And I think, even though you know how to make the bridging link, I'd like to demonstrate how to add it. Following the same procedure that you saw me use for all the bridging links, I take my straight length of wire, position my round nose pliers about an inch or so from the end of the wire, so I have a short end and I have a long end, and I bend my wire out at a 45-degree angle. Now, without moving my pliers from the wire, I bend the wire over and around the tip of the plier, creating a loop. Good. To attach what I've made to my necklace, like I've done with all of the bridging links, it's necessary for me to insert the wire into the link, like so. Then I get a firm grip on the link, and I wrap that short length around the long leg of the wire. The objective is to get a nice tight coil, and this will take some practice because it's not that easy to do. So we have this extra bit of wire which we need to cut off, and what I'll do now is flatten out the end like so. Apply a bead and create the final loop. Position my pliers about 1/8 of an inch above the bead. Bend my wire out at a 45-degree angle. Bend the wire up and around the plier. Now I hold that loop that I just made firmly within the grasp of my pliers, and I wrap around the long leg. This is relatively easy because you have a nice length of wire to grab onto. Compress the coil that we just made nice and tight. That's nice. That came out nice. Cut off the excess and flatten it out. I like to twist the end loops on the bridging link so they're both ultimately lined up. Just about like that. What I mean is that loop and that loop face exactly the same direction. And I try to do that with all of my bridge links. So I'll make minor adjustments to the necklace after I'm finished to make sure everything is lined up properly. See what I mean? That end and that end line face the same way. That assures that the necklace will fall properly. I will demonstrate how to add the figure 8 and the official clasp to the end of this necklace, but I'm going to move through it quickly. For a detailed discussion on how to create the official clasp and the figure 8 link, please see my videos on those subjects. Okay, first official clasp. We take our pliers and we give the wire that little bend. Now I take my round nose pliers, bend the wire up and around. I'll bend the wire out at a 45, bend that up and around. Bring over my anvil, do a little careful tapping, firm up that link. I'll proceed to attach the fishhook to the bridging link that I've made. Hold the fishhook clasp firmly with my pliers and wrap the long length around a few times. Nice and tight. That's good. I'll trim off the excess. Get in as close as I physically can. And finesse the end of that silver wire to make it nice and flat and smooth. It's effective. That's what I wanted to achieve. Now on the other end, I could leave it like that actually. But I would prefer to put the figure 8 there. It gives a nice larger loop to lock into, and it really ends the piece. It's like the period at the end of the sentence. So to make the figure 8, get my straight length of wire, wrap the wire around like so. Position my plier right about there, wrap the wire around the other side. Okay, that's why I call it the figure 8. Please watch my video on how to do this. I give very detailed instructions. So what do? I like to insert the short end into the loop of the bridge and link. Then with my pliers, I hold that short end against its corresponding loop, and I take the long end, which is easy to grab now, and I wrap the wire around like so. Trim off that. Tuck it in. Push that trimmed off end into the link so it's hid. Pull that out of my way. Trim that. There we have it. The conclusion. The bridge and link with a figure 8 attached makes a really nice clasp. Also consider that adds a few inches. It looks like about 2 inches to the necklace. So if you're designing your necklace to be a very specific length, take that into consideration. The Greek link.